Hello everyone, welcome back to Code with this channel. In the series of food recipe app, this is the second part. In the first part, we implemented registration and login using Mern Stack, okay, MongoDB, React.js, Node, and Express. In this video, we will just learn how to create a recipe. Yeah, so let's first of all log into the system. Yeah, we are the register. Let's move to the login. Press login button, so we came to directly to the home page. In this video we will just first of all create a recipe. After creating a recipe, we can save the recipes. For example, for this user I have saved this one recipe, and also we can read a recipe, like pressing this we can read a recipe, okay, and we can also save that for a user. This recipe is saved for this user. Let's check it. See, already saved this recipe and the button is disabled, but the first one we can save that. Let's read it in the ingredient and description and all thing about that, and we can save it right now. So in this video we will just implement this functionality, also the logout functionality to log out from the system. So let's get started. Okay, before starting, if you are new to my YouTube channel, don't forget to subscribe it, and also first of all watch the first video, then come to this the second video. So now let's first of all log into the system. Press login button and we came to the home component. Now in this home component we need first of all to create a navbar here, okay, at the top. Let's create a navbar. Come here to the front end, and in the component we will just create a new component by the name of now.js or FCE, React Functional Component Export. And as you know that we are using Bootstrap for designing, so we will simply copy this design from Bootstrap. This is Bootstrap and we will copy this design. This is just HTML code, okay, don't mind it. This navbar, and I will customize it as for our need. So I have customized that code, and this is the whole code that I have copied, okay. Navbar, after that container, and then we have this another one. Here we have this food recipe link and another link for create recipe and save recipe, and also login and register button. So now let's import it inside our app.js. okay, just come here and we will import it on the top of these all components, because navbar should be all time visible now. And also let's import it here. Let's check it now. See, this is our navbar that we have created in our button, and these two links, create recipe and save recipe and put food recipe. Now we will add our routers, okay. To add routing, for whenever we press this we should move to the create component. If we press save recipe we should move to the save recipe, and the login register we should move to the login register page. So for that we will use link, okay, React Autodom link. Let's change this to link, and also href I will move it to is equal to where we should move. This is for home page, so we will just add a slash to move back to the home page. Let's change this one also to link, and change the href to is equal to, we will move to create recipe, and also let's change it link and add to is equal to, and we will just saved recipe. Let's create a link here, and to is equal to, we should move to the we should move to the register and add this text inside that. Here let's add to is equal to, where we should move to the register. who already added that. Let's check the routes. We have auth/register. Let's copy this one for our registration. Yeah, I will use auth/register. Now I will create these routes. Okay, create recipe and save recipe. Just come here to the app.jsx, copy these two, okay. Shift alt. This one should be for create recipe, and this one for or I can add here recipe/create recipe. Also here saved recipe. Okay, recipe/saved recipe. Copy this one and let's come here to the navbar, and instead of create recipe, save recipe. Paste it here. Also change this to create. Now let's create our saved and create recipe components. Saved recipe.jsx or fce, and also one another for create recipe.jsx or fce. Let's import them inside our app.jsx. Create recipe, saved recipe, let's copy this one. Let's use them now instead of this login. I should create recipe and also saved recipe. Let's check it now. Just come here to the home component and let's press save recipe. See, we came here to the saved recipe component, create to the home page, and let's change this text. I will add just bootstrap classes, text decoration, none, and also text white, or leave it like this. Okay, no problem. So let's press this one. So we came to the register page. So it was all about our routing. So now whenever we press this create recipe, so we should create a forum here and to create a new recipe. So let's move to the create component, and here to the create recipe. Here we will create a forum now. So now we will create a forum here as we did like the registration forum. Let's come here and copy this registration forum. We have the same fields for just ingredients, text, and other things. And paste that here. I will just customize it, and we will create 3 or 4 elements, 3 or 4 input fields for image, ingredients, title, and description. Let's remove this also. This will be just our create recipe, and on submit we should call handle submit function, but right now we don't have the function. Let's remove this, and the first one is this is for title or name of the recipe, name. Let's change it to name, and enter a name, text. Okay, and also let's remove this. This was the first input field. I will create other input fields stay same to this. This one is for description. I will just change the name of these input fields. So I have just changed the name of them. These are our input fields: image URL, ingredients, description, and name. Let's check it. Yeah, we have these input fields. So now whenever we write something in these input fields, we should store that inside a variable. So let's create an object for that. Just come here and we will create an object now. And const recipe set recipe method, which we'll use to update the recipe, is equal to, we will use state hook for it. And this is an object with us. We have name in it, name. Then we have description. Default values are empty. Ingredients, and this is also empty. Image URL, which is an empty string. At the last, who created this recipe? Okay, who is which user created this recipe? So we should attach the user ID also. So for the user ID, so we should have the user ID. We should store that somewhere. So let's first of all write a user ID, and the user ID is, we will get it from local storage. First we will store our user ID whenever we log in successfully here. Okay, when we log in successfully, we should store the user ID inside the our local storage. In the previous video I showed you that we returned in login. Let's come here. Whenever we log into the system, just I will show you in auth. So on the successful login, we return this ID, okay, the user ID. So now I will store that ID inside local storage. Come here to the login, and I will just write window dot local storage dot set item. After that, the name is ID, and the value is result dot data dot ID. So it will store the ID inside local storage. Now we will get that ID. Window dot local storage dot get item. The name of that was ID. So it will store the ID inside user ID. And now whenever we update, so we should update these data now. So to update it, let's come here. In every input fields, we should call on change event, and we will call a handle change function now. Handle change. So let's copy this text and we will paste it on all input fields, because whenever we change value of every input fields, we will call the on change handle change functions. So now let's create handle change function. Const handle change is equal to, we will get an event inside it. Now we will update our value. First of all, we will distract our name and value from event.target. Const name and value is equal to event.target. It will distract name and value from this event.target. Now we will update the values. So to update the values, we will call set recipe method, and here we first of all we will write recipe this spread operator. This means the just keep all the previous values, just update name and assign value. What it will do, this means that first of all we distract the name from input fields and value. Okay, the name is name and the value is what we have written in the input fields. So it will update just name, then assign that value that we have entered. Again, if we are writing inside the description, it will assign values to the description, to this name, that value. So this was the handle change event. And now whenever we press the submit button, so we should submit this recipe. Let's come here, on click, or we will move to the forum on submit. Let's call on submit event on submit, and we will call handle submit. Const handle submit is equal to, we will get an event. First of all, prevent default submission, and after that we will use now access HTTP request response library to pass our data to our server side. Let's use access. The access has imported dot post. Our URL is http://localhost, because we are working locally. Then our port number, the port number of our server side. Our server side port number is 3001. And then we will move to the recipe/create recipe route. We will move to this route. We will create this API later. And let's pass our data now. Recipe. So we will pass this object. It is by default an object with us, recipe, and we pass that to this route, this API. Then we will get a result. And now let's just console.log result.data, and also we can just alert a message just for created recipe created .catch if there was any error, and just console.log the error. So it means that we did our front end code. Now we will move to the server side to create this API, and we will handle our data there. Let's move to our so for the recipe, for the at the user authentication we had a route. Okay, inside this route folder we have auth. Okay, auth routes. But for recipe routes we will create another file. Let's just create a new folder file by the name of recipe routes, or we can assign just recipe routes. Okay, .js. And before creating our routes, we will create a model for our recipe. Okay, the structure that we would like to store in the database. For that, let's create a new recipe.js, and let's copy the model data of user, copy it and paste it inside this model. Sorry, Control A, Control C and Control V. Let's change it to the recipe schema, and here we will just, let's remove this unique, and this is name with us. Then we have the description. Description is not required. Ingredients. After that, image URL. And user ID. User ID in type is equal to, okay, which user, okay, here we will store the ID of the user, which user has created. So for that, the type is type mongoose dot schema dot types dot object ID, and then we will just write the reference. Reference is user and required true. So this will store thus the ID of the user, and this is the recipe model, and the database table or collection name would be recipes, and this is the recipe schema, and import just export recipe model. So it is our model which we has created. Now let's move to our routes, recipe routes. And here first of all, let's import const express is equal to require express, and also recipe model, const recipe model is equal to require model slash recipe. Let's create a router is equal to require express start router. and let's export it. Module.exports is equal to router. Let's create API now. Router is equal to router.post. Our route is, that is create recipe. This is for to create a recipe. Request and response. Now let's move and just let's import it inside index.js. Const recipe router is equal to require /routes /recipe router. So now let's use it. App.use /recipe recipe router. So here we will store now our record. So for that we will use recipe model dot create. Inside it we will define the fields. Name is equal to request dot body dot name. After that description, request dot body dot description. Then we have the ingredients. Request dot body dot ingredients. Then we have image URL. Request dot body dot image URL. Lastly we have user ID. User ID is equal to with request dot body dot user ID. So we have stored the record. It will just create a record inside recipe model database, and now then we will get a result. Let's return the result. Response.json, just return the result. .catch if there was any error. Console.log the error. So now let's create a new recipe. Just come here to the recipe. Okay, we will create a new recipe. So to create that, let's enter name of the recipe. First recipe pumpkin, and description of recipe. First ingredients. Sorry, I have just submitted it. Second one, and we could take it as a text area, but I have taken it input fields. And now let's store an image. This is the URL of the image that we will store. And now let's press submit button. Recipe created. Now let's check is it created or not. Let's refresh our MongoDB Compass. See recipe table as created collection, and two records inserted. The first one, let's remove it. That was not our record, but this is the record that we have created. Okay, this is the user ID, and this is the image URL, and ingredients, description, and the name or the title of our recipe. So we have successfully created our recipe. So now we will just display whenever we create a recipe, we should move back directly to the home page. So for that we need to use navigate hook. Just come here to create recipe, and we will let's import use navigate hook. Use navigate, that has imported. So let's create an instance of that. Const navigate is equal to use navigate. So now let's use the navigate. Navigate. We will move to the home page back. Okay, so this is the route of our home page. And now let's move back to our home page. On the home page now we will display our recipes. So to display the recipes, just come here to the home page, home.jsx, and this we will display all the recipes. So first of all, we should fetch the recipes from our server side. So to fetch the recipes, let's first of all write the API for that. Come here to the recipe router, and here we will just fetch the recipe. So for that we will use router dot get our that would be like get recipes, or just recipes request dot response so here we will use recipe model dot find. So find method will find all the records dot then we will get recipes, and let's return those. Return response.json recipes dot catch if there was any error, so response.json return the error. So let's move back to our front end, and we will get these recipes there. Okay, let's move to home page, and the home page, let's come here. We will use effect and create a function and also array dependency, and here let's use access as imported dot get URL as HTTP / localhost, and then the port number 3001 / recipes. Okay, we will move to this route, and we will get all the records dot then we will get recipes dot catch if there was any error, console dot log error. And now we should have a variable to store these data inside here. Let's create a state variable const, and that is recipes. Set recipes is equal to use state, and this is an array type with us, and let's assign data to that. Set recipes and assign recipes that we have, recipes dot data. So now let's display the data. So to display the data, we will display that here. Let's create another div element, and here we will have recipes, and let's now display the records. For that we will use map function, recipes dot map, we will get a recipe, and now let's display the records dot div element, and inside that we have first of all the title. For the title we will use h3 tag, and let's display the title, that is recipe dot name, and fee tag. Inside it we will display the description. Let's display the description, or just the no, we will not display anything else, just we will display the title and the image, and the ingredients and description we will display that later in read file. Whenever we want to read a recipe, so then we will display all those things in that file. So for now let's display the image now. So let's display the image, and the source would be recipe dot image URL. Okay, I am storing just the image URL. Okay, and let's check it how it looks like. Just come here, and it looks like this. Okay, let's add some bootstrap classes to bring it to the center and design it. So for that I will pause the video for the design. So I have added just these bootstrap classes, the top one and this one and these classes, and it looks like this now. See, it is the our first record that we have stored. So now let's add a link here. Okay, routing, whenever we click on this title we should move and read all the description and detail about this recipe, and also we can save it. One thing else I have missed, that is login and register. We should display here whenever we are logged in. So we should display here just the login, not the login and register. We should display logout, sorry, okay. We should display logout here whenever we are logged into the system. So first I will just perform this functionality, then I will perform later that one, okay. Let's first of all add a link here to this title, React Outer DOM link. Inside this link, and it should goes to it should move to the a URL. We should pass ID to that URL. Based on that ID we will fetch the record. Let's add this quotation, that is read recipe / ID. ID of this recipe, that is recipe.id, and also let's add a class name, text decoration none. Let's save it, and whenever we press this link we should move to this route, okay. Read recipe. Let's come here to the app.jsx, and here we will create a new route now, that is read recipe / we will pass an ID to this, and also we should move to a new component. Let's create that component inside our home, inside these components. Let's read recipe.jsx or fce. Save it and come here back. Let's import that read recipe that has imported, and let's use that here, read recipe. Now let's move to the read recipe, and inside it first of all we will just get our destruct our ID. So to get the ID, const, and we will get ID is equal to, we will use use forum hook from React Outer DOM, use forums that has imported, and now let's fetch our record based on this ID. So we will use effect hook, and let's here access dot get, we will get a record 3001 / recipe / get recipe by ID / we will pass our ID now plus our ID dot, then we will get a result. And let's store, first of all let's sketch an error, console.log error, and let's create a variable. We will store our data inside that, const recipe set recipe is equal to use state hook, and this is an array with us, and let's store our data inside that, set recipe and store result dot data. So now let's move and create this API, okay, recipe by ID. Copy this and let's move to the recipe router, and here let's create that router dot get control V, okay, / ID, and also request, we will get a request response, and let's extract our ID from forum parameter from URL. So we will use request.forums for that. Const ID is equal to request.forums.id. So it will read our ID from params. Now let's use recipe model dot find by id, and now let's pass our id, that is id is equal to with this id. Okay, that will find based on this id, and dot in we will get a result. Let's return response.json result dot data. Sorry, just result dot catch. If there was any error, just return response.json error. So now let's move and display our recipe. So for that we will use again the bootstrap for the design purpose. Here first of all we will read the title. Before that I will just write h2. No, that is okay. Let's just write h2 for the title, that is recipe dot a name, and after that the description. For the description I will just write description recipe dot description, and then the ingredients a recipe ingredients, and after that what we would like to display the image at the last. Image, the source is equal to with recipe dot image URL. So let's check it and let's test it how it looks like and what happened, and let's refresh our page. Where is the error? Let's move to the console. On the console we got an error that uncart reference link is not defined. Link is not defined in home.jsx. Let's come here to the home.jsx. Let's import link from React Outer DOM. That has imported. Let's check it. Yeah, that is okay. Now let's press this title. See, we came to this read recipe. Okay, first recipe, these are the description and ingredients, but we will bring them to the center. We will add some bootstrap design to this also. Let's come here to the read recipe. I have added these bootstrap classes and I have changed the design. I brought image to the top and other description down from the to the right side of the image. It looks like this. Okay, it looks like this, and we have a save button to save our recipe. See, these are the design that we have added. So now let's perform this functionality to display logout here. Okay, whenever we are logged in, so we should display logout here. For that, come here to the navbar. At the navbar, just come here to the login and register, and here we will display just or we can display instead of this link. Let's move here, remove this, also remove this type submit from this, and here write window dot local storage dot length. If the length was greater than 0, it means if there was something in the local storage, the length was 1 or 2 or 3, so it will be true. So then we will display logout here. We will display logout button. Copy this button and paste it here. Instead of this link, we will just display logout. and if there was nothing, it means if that was false, so then we will display this button there. Close exit and paste it here. Let's save it and check it. See, right now we are logged in, and later we will perform logout functionality also. So let's now press the save button. Whenever we press this save button, so we should save this recipe through this in this user. Okay, the user who is logged in, we will save this recipe for that user. Let's move and to the read recipe, and here come here to the save button. Yeah, this is the save button. So whenever we click on this, so we should save that recipe. So for the saved recipes, first of all we will come to the user. First of all we will add a field in the users for saved recipes. Okay, to store the saved recipes. I will show you. Okay, let's come here to the server side and come here to the users model. Inside this user model, we will add one another field for saved recipes. We will store just the IDs of saved recipes. Okay, if user click on a recipe, so we will store the ID of that recipe inside this user for this user. Okay, let's come here, and here I will just write saved recipes. This is an array because we want to store more than one values of saved recipes, because the user can store multiple recipes. So let's write it. The type is equal to type. What is the type? Type is Mongoose dot schema dot types dot object ID, and the reference is that is recipe. Okay, we will store the recipe ID inside this. It is an array. Now let's fetch these saved recipes. Okay, we will fetch these saved recipes whenever we come here to the front end. If this recipe was already saved for this user, so then we will just disable this button. So for that, let's come here to first of all fetch those saved recipes. Use effect. Inside use effect, let's create here what we got. Let's close it inside in array, inside a function, sorry. Okay, const get recipe is equal to, I will close all this code inside that function, and let's call that function here get recipe. And also let's create another function, const that is fetch saved recipes is equal to. So here we will fetch the saved recipes. Let's copy this code, paste it here, and instead of this route we will just get saved recipes, and we will move to this route. We will pass a user ID and also the recipe ID, just the user ID plus ID. Okay, we already have the user ID here, we have stored that. So we attach the ID with this link, and we will get the recipes. Okay, saved recipes. The result we will just, let's create another variable, const saved recipes set saved recipes is equal to use state. It is also an array, but before storing it inside that, I will console it. Console, I will show you something. Okay, console result dot data. Let's move now to our server side. Let's first of all call this function inside our use effect. Copy these and paste it here. let's move to our server side to the recipe router, and inside it let's create a route router.get saved recipes. We will get an ID, request, response. Let's first of all read our ID from URL. So we will just copy this line and paste it here. After reading the ID, now let's use the user model. Okay, let's fetch the user based on this ID. Let's first of all import user model. Const user model is equal to require /model/user, and now we will use that user model dot find by ID, and let's pass our ID is equal to with ID dot, then we will get a result, and let's return the response.json. We will return just result dot saved recipes. Okay, we will return this saved recipes from our user. I will show you inside the user model. We will just return this saved recipes dot catch. If there was any error, response.json, return the error. Let's save it, and let's first of all move to our just come here, and okay, I will show you now in the console. Okay, I have console this data. Let's display that data. Just come here and move to console. On the console we faced with an error, read recipe. Let's refresh it. That is okay. See, we got this data. This is an object, and inside it on the user I have created, we don't have those fields which I have added. Okay, saved recipes. Let's see the database. Let's refresh it, and also let's come here to the users. On these fields and these users we don't have saved recipes. I will delete this and I will register. I will create a new user. So let's come here, and right now we don't have the logout functionality. We didn't implemented that. Let's move to auth/register, and here I will create another user, that is Khalil, and 1 2 3 4 5. Let's submit it. So we have created that user, and now let's add Khalil and 1 2 3 4 5. Let's log in. We didn't implemented the logout. Okay, I will implement that later. So let's press on this one. So we came to the read property, and now let's move to the database and see the user. Let's refresh it. See, a new record has added, and here we have array in array. Okay, so now let's check it. Let's move to the console. Here we have this data. This is an object right now, and we don't have any data inside it. So let's first of all we will save a record. Okay, what happened, what we get in the result. Let's close it and just come here. Whenever we press on this saved button, okay, this button, so we should save that record. Let's on click, we will call on click event and save recipe. We can pass our ID also. Okay, so let's pass the ID recipe dot/id. Save it and make it this in a row function. Let's create now saved recipe function. Saved recipe, and also instead of console we will store the data. We will just read save recipe dot data dot saved recipes, the fields that we have added to the users. Okay, that is saved recipes. Let's once again console that. So that is undefined. It means we don't have the data is undefined. So let's first of all save a record. Okay, we will save a record. So whenever we click on this button, so we will move to this save recipe, and let's create this function now. Const and we will get the ID here. And now we will use Axios dot put, because we want to update our user. We want to update the record which is in user dot put, and here our URL localhost 3001 slash we'll move to recipes. That is okay, slash recipes, and now we will pass our user ID and also our recipe ID. This is our recipe ID, so let's change it to recipe ID, and also our user ID which we have extracted that from for URL. So let's pass that data, ID plus recipe ID dot, then we will get a result and dot catch if there was any error, console.log error. Where is the error? Yeah, the error has gone. So now let's move to our server side, and to create this route, this API, just come here to the recipe router, and here we will create router dot put slash okay. We will get request and response, and inside it, first of all, we will just read our recipe based on that ID and also our user. So let's use async and await, and here just use const recipe is equal to await, and let's just use we will read recipe. So for that we will use recipe model dot find by ID, and the ID is equal to with the request dot body dot recipe ID. Also the same we will do for a user, this is user model, and find by ID is equal to with ID. So after that let's now we can use try catch, okay, but let's just try it to update our saved recipes. Okay, we will assign this recipe to our saved recipes. We will write like this, okay, user dot saved recipes is equal to we will assign push, okay, dot push this recipe to that saved recipes. Okay, let's push this recipe to our saved recipe, to this record. Okay, to this saved recipes I will push this recipe which I have which I read. After that user dot save, and let's return response dot JSON. We will just return saved recipes is equal to with the user dot saved recipes. Let's check it now what happened. Let's come here and refresh this. After refreshing, let's press this save recipe, and let's move now to our browser. let's move to the console. In the console we faced with an error that says localhost 3001 recipe access to yeah, this says that the access is blocked. So let's move to our index.js file, and there I will just add food in methods. Here I will add food also because we didn't add it the food. So let's check it now. Let's refresh it and let's press save. So we paste with an error again, recipe read recipe 404 not found. So let's move to our code and just come here to the read recipe. This is just let's change it to just recipe, and let's save it and come here back, refresh it and press saved button, and let's check it now. The record has again we faced with an error. So the first problem I found, that is we have written this wrong. This is id not di. Let's change the name of this and we will try it again. Let's save it. What happened now? Let's come here and let's refresh it, press save button. See, we got the data. It means we successfully entered the data. So let's check it. Okay, let's refresh this user. I have deleted the previous users because there were no received recipes filled in that. So I think the data has not stored inside it. Let's check it again. What is the problem? Why the data has not saved? I have added also these try catch and await to this. Okay, let's move to the here we don't have any problem. On the server side everything is okay, but on the console here also we don't have status okay and data object and header content length 2. So the error was that we have passed here, come here, the read recipe, this ID that we have passed. Let's come here, yeah, this ID, this is also the recipe ID that we have passed. Okay, this is the recipe ID that we have just distracted from URL, that was recipe ID. So we should distract the ID of user. So to distract the ID of user, for that we need to write like const user ID is equal to window dot local storage dot get item and the ID. Okay, we have stored our user ID inside the local storage. So now let's pass our user ID to that user ID, and let's move to our recipe router, and here we will use user ID. Let's save it and now let's try it. What happened? Let's refresh this and let's press save. See, we got this data, and now let's move to save. See, saved recipes 1 array. We got this saved recipes 1 array, and let's check our database. Let's refresh it and check it. See, we got this data. This is the recipe ID that we have stored. Okay, the ID of recipe. Okay, this ID we have stored inside this user saved recipes. It is okay. So now let's come here to the console. I will show you something. So we should store now these saved recipes. Okay, we should move to the result data.saved recipes. We should store these inside this variable. Let's come here to the read recipe. Yeah, to this saved recipes we should store that. So to store that, for that let's come here to the instead of this console I will write set saved recipes result dot data dot saved recipes. So we will store all the IDs inside this saved recipes. After storing the data there, also whenever we update a record, whenever we add another recipe, so we should update this saved recipes also. Okay, saved recipes, let's just update that. So the same, we will write the same thing, just copy this line and paste it instead of this console. Okay, it means our saved recipe has updated. This variable has updated. Now I will use this variable. Okay, just come here to the button, and in the button I will show you now how to use that. Let's use it now. The saved recipes. Okay, disabled is equal to so here we will call a function is recipe, for example saved or not, and we will pass the ID to that recipe dot slash ID. Now we will create this function. Let's create this function. Const is recipe saved is equal to, we will get ID and here we will use saved recipes. Okay, this variable that we have. Okay, saved recipes dot includes ID. Is it has the ID. If the ID was included, it will return false, otherwise true, otherwise false. If it was true, so it will be disabled. If that was false, it will be active. And also instead of save, we will just now here let's call that is recipe saved and pass recipe ID. If that was saved, if that was true, so then we will write saved, otherwise write save. Control S8 and let's check it now. We paste with an error, uncaught type error, cannot read properties of undefined, read includes. So let's check it. So again the problem is that we have passed again the user ID to our saved recipe. Okay, whenever we are picking our saved recipe, so we passed our recipe ID instead of user ID. So we should pass again our user ID here. After passing user ID, so let's check it now. See, we got this data and it is saved. Okay, because this record is already saved with us. So after performing this saved recipe, so now we will perform this logout functionality. Whenever we press this logout, we should be log out from the system. So for that, let's come here and we will move to our navbar, and here let's come here to the logout. Let's add on click. On click, we will just call handle logout. So let's create this function now. Const handle logout is equal to. So first of all, we will clear our local storage. So for that, let's write window dot local storage dot clear. And after that, we will just move to the server side and to clear our cookies. From our just to clear our token from cookies. So for that, let's call access dot let's get slash logout. We can write auth slash logout and http localhost 3001, then auth and logout. Then we will get a result. The result we will just window dot location dot reload. I will reload the whole components back dot catch if there was any error. So console.log error, and let's move to our server side to create this API auth/logout. Come here to the auth. Here let's create a router. Router dot get/logout. We'll get request and response. We should write that inside request and response. And right here like response dot clear cookie, and pass the name of the cookie which was token, so it will clear the cookies. Now let's response dot JSON, we will return a message that is success. Save it. Now let's move back. What happened? Just come here and let's press log out. I think we paste with an error. Let's move to the console. It says type error cannot read properties of undefined. So to solve this undefined properties, let's come here to the recipe router, and here we will just use, instead of right now we log out from the system. It means that we don't have user ID. So when we don't have the user ID, so it means we pitched a record by null, so it has generated an error. So the error, to solve that error, we will just return status 500.json.error. So it will not just run an error for us. Let's refresh it now. See, we removed that error, but that is existed in the console, but we can display our product. So right now we are not logged in and register. And also instead of using reload, we will use navigate, which I have declared and created an instance of that navigate. Let's use navigate. We will move to home page. Navigate is a hook, okay, from react.dom. Use navigate, and we created an instance from that, and we use that just to move from one company to another. Right now whenever we log out, so we will directly move to the home page. So let's move back to our home page. So right now we have just this one recipe, and now let's move to the saved recipes. Okay, whenever we click this saved recipe, we should move and display all saved recipes. So for that, just come here to the saved recipe, read recipe. Let's remove these and also these auth, and this is read recipe. Remove this also. Just come here and create it saved recipe, and in saved recipe just come here to the home page. We will, because in home page we also just fetch the records, but in the whole concept is the same. Just here in the saved recipes we will just fetch the saved recipes, but here we display the whole recipe. So for that I will just copy the whole code, this code, okay, because we would like to design the same page. Control Z. Let's copy this code, Control C, and paste it here. We will have the same design as we did in the home page. And also let's copy this code. Sorry, just come here, paste it here. I will customize it, okay, don't worry. Copy these, paste it here. So now I will customize it, okay. Instead of recipes I will add saved recipes and set saved recipes use state, that is an array with us. And also we should move to the saved recipes, okay, to fetch the saved recipes. And let's change it to the recipe saved recipes, and this is git. We would like to get the records, and also we will pass the user id. So to pass the user id, for that we need to read that from local storage const user id is equal to window dot local storage dot get item id, and let's pass user id plus user id, and then we will get the recipes and store them inside this set. Copy this and paste it here. Recipes.data, store that inside this save recipe, and after we will read here, let's get our saved recipes. Okay, we want to just return those recipes which are saved by this user. Okay, so we pass this. Now let's create this API inside our recipe router. We already have one saved recipes API, so let's change the title, the route. This will be, just come here and save recipes, change this to user recipes, save it, and just come here to the recipe, create here router dot get slash user recipes, and also we will get the id, request and response, and here we will read the id from this, and that is const id is equal to request dot forums dot id. After reading id, now let's read the user record. So let's read the user const user is equal to with the user model dot find by id. id is equal to with the id that we have passed the user id. Okay, we read the user record now. So let's use async and await keyword. Await. Also let's read now the recipes. Const recipes is equal to recipe model dot find by id. Now let's enter. Now we should just read those recipes which are saved by this user. Okay, which are saved with this user. So for that we have a structure, the id, those id which has $n which are in user dot saved recipes. Okay, this is a structure. Just read those recipes which has the which are in user dot saved recipes. Okay, copy the just take those ids which are stored in saved recipes, and then take read those recipes and store them inside these recipes, and return response.json, or we can just say status 201.json, return the recipes. Let's just wrap this whole code and try catch block, paste it here. If there was any error, so response dot status 500.json return the error. Yeah, user recipes slash id and save recipes, user recipes and user id, then recipes, they will be stored inside this save recipe. Let's use them. Copy this one, and instead of recipes use that, paste that here, and then we will just read the slash link. We will just read the title and image of that recipe. So let's try it and see what happens. Let's come here and let's press save recipes. Save recipes, it means for this user we didn't save the recipe. Just come here, let's press on this. We are not logged in. Okay, we are not logged in, so let's log in. First of all, log into the system. Khalil 1 2 3 4 5 and just log in. Let's move, and this is saved right now. Okay, let's press save recipes. Save recipes, we don't have any records, so let's check it. Move to the console. We paste within error, so just come here to the saved recipe.jsx. Where is the error? This is console.log. Here also console.log. Save it. Just come here and we paste within error. Yeah, the problem was that that we couldn't receive the save recipes. That was to remove this. Just we should find. Okay, we should find the record, not just by IDs to find one record, but we would like to find records. Okay, it means more than one records. So for that we will use find, and we assign these IDs, and we found the record based on these IDs, user recipes. So let's refresh it now. See, the error has gone, and we can read the saved recipe. These are the saved recipe which are saved by the user. So it was all about creating a recipe, saving a recipe, and also reading a recipe using Mern Stack. I hope this video was helpful for you. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.